So I'm Dustin Betts from the Founder Institute marketing team in Palo Alto, California, and I'm here with Harmony Oswald. She is the founder and CEO of Legalucy. It is an interactive pre-lawyer assistant that empowers small business owners to spot legal issues, take action, and stay safe in their businesses. In addition to being a startup founder herself, Harmony is also a licensed California state attorney and advises entrepreneurial clients on topics like legal entity selection and formation, as well as intellectual property protection, which I'm sure we will dive into more deeply here shortly. First, though, Harmony, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know you're a veteran as well as a female founder. What brought you into the world of entrepreneurship?
Question. So you're right. I am a U.S. Army veteran. I served in the 1st Infantry Division overseas. And I was a broadcast journalist overseas, so I did that for quite some time. But what brought me into entrepreneurship is just that my whole family are business owners. So when I decided to become an attorney, it was really an excellent fit for me, just kind of a natural fit to become a business attorney and also to launch my own practice. So it's kind of unusual for attorneys. A lot of time they're shooting for the big firm job, but for me, what really resonated and fit really well was to help business owners and also to launch my own firm. So that's what I did. And in that, my firm was partnering with the Founder Institute to put on these really awesome pitch events downtown in San Jose to help advance female founders, actually, to try to close some of those gender gaps in investing and so forth for them. So that worked out really well. And in that, Vet Tech actually offered me a fellowship to go through Founder Institute to build a legal tech company to actually kind of up-level myself. So it's a much bigger opportunity than having a small business. And so I decided to go for it, really, because my whole family, again, are business owners. And so I kind of jumped all in, and that's what I've been working on. So it's been
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to ask you, let's talk about Legalucy. I know I've heard it called before the pre-lawyer marketplace. You've said that you started the company because you have a lot of family and small business owners in your family. But what else? Just give us the pitch for Legalucy, I guess.
Sure. Well, one of the main reasons we decided to build the product was because when I was working as a business lawyer, there were quite a few business owners who mentioned to us, they really wish that they had some kind of guide that could be used kind of in advance. They're kind of lost and they're not really sure when the appropriate time is to go to a lawyer. And they're just not really sure whether or not they have a legal issue. So they had been asking for this product. And then when we went through Founder Institute, one of the amazing and very valuable resources there is doing these customer interviews and kind of validating the idea. So we went through that whole process to figure out what really is needed and what we should build. And we ended up with this idea of, exactly, the pre-lawyer assistant. Basically, it helps the business owner to narrow down their issue. We translate legalese, so we meet them where they are. That's something that really isn't being done. But we are really listening to the business owner and, again, meeting them where they are. So the first thing we're doing is helping them narrow down based on a typical business owner to kind of figure out what exactly the issue is. And then on the other hand, we are also helping them to solve the issue right there on the platform.
Wow. Yeah, I love the idea of translating legalese as somebody who's not a lawyer, but who has been through startups before. It's something that you really have to grapple with often for the first time as a founder. So
sure, we heard a lot of that in the interviews with business owners that some of these sites that they go to that it's just kind of over their head and you're expected to know a certain amount, and they think, what if they miss something? You just are kind of expected to know what you need prior to going. So, and it can be seen in statistics. according to the U.S. Chamber Institute for Legal Reform, small business owners pay $100 billion every year on litigation. They're out there trying to use the internet and kind of try to save time and money, but it's really not working out very well. So it's, we're getting really excellent feedback that this is definitely, obviously, something that's needed in the marketplace. So we're excited to build it and provide it.
Yeah, so tell me, there's obviously a really wide range of different legal problems or legal challenges that business owners of all sizes, from small business owners to the startup that is a tech-enabled company that very well could scale to be the next unicorn. They face a huge variety of legal challenges. So tell us a little bit first about Legalucy's MVP. I understand that it's basically about understanding intellectual property law, right?
It is, yes. So I do have experience in that myself, actually, as a lawyer. Those are some, I've worked with people on trademark issues, for example. So yeah, we decided to start there. Just recently, we secured some top tier IP legal scholars that will be delivering content on our platform. So that's really exciting news. And yeah, so from the user's perspective, how it works is you go on there and it says, for example, 7 steps in your own business. And so the first step has to do with IP law. And as I mentioned to you, the translating of legally. So for example, it does not say to you, would you like to file a provisional patent? Or would you like to file a trademark? So instead of that, we say to you, are you worried that someone might steal your idea? Or do you have a company name you're thinking of protecting? Words like that, so that people really understand what exactly the value that it can bring to your business and so forth. So yeah, we started out with IP law, and we have a 12-month plan to build it out. The second step will be for corporate entity formations. The third step has to do with employment and HR. There's a lot of ongoing issues and problems there for business owners in that area. And we'll be helping with funding, like SEC regulations and so forth. Also internet data and privacy type of issues, internet privacy policies and so forth. So data collection online. Then another one is when you're ready to open up your brick and mortar business, like real property type of issues. But again, the whole value that we're providing, a great value, is that we don't ask you, you don't have to know what you're looking for before you go. So we ask you and help you narrow these things down in a way that you can understand.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, because I've actually grappled with things like patent law before in previous startup roles, but those kind of questions about what is a provisional patent, they are so common, and people, even if you really study business, a lot of people aren't exposed to those kind of concepts at all.
And you really are, to date, the products and things available to help you, you really are expected to kind of have a basic experience level and knowledge. And it's just the majority of Americans just aren't there. And so it's like they've been ignored. There's been an access to justice issue because of it. And again, the amount of litigation fees and so forth, it's kind of really a nightmare. So that's people, it's just, when people think of legal, it's not fun. But we're really trying to create a platform that makes people feel comfortable, again, meets them where they are, and that really speaks to them. We think that that's needed. So to date, a lot of legal traditionally has been the branding, and everything about it is very cold. It's kind of standoffish. It seems like there's a barrier up to it. We're eliminating that. So we're making it feel more comfortable for the user.
Nice. So you mentioned before that, and I know you have done it here with us in Silicon Valley, as well as mentioning maybe that you've run events in San Jose, but in coordination with the Founder Institute, sometimes we brand these events as Startup Legal 101. And you went down the list of kind of your development plan for all these different areas of business law that will eventually be incorporated into Legalucy. But just from your experience, I mean, as an attorney and running these Startup Legal 101 events, in partnership with the Founder Institute, this is a question more broadly for any founders who might be listening. What are some of the misunderstandings that you see these entrepreneurs making it when it comes to startup legal? I mean, it might be a similar list, but what are kind of the biggest problems or the ones that you see most frequently with specifically first-time founders?
Well, I think one of the problems with founders specifically is that obviously they're trying to save money. They don't have funds in the beginning. And it's really important that some of these things are taken care of right away, so that you can capture the value and not waste your time. So for an example of that is, so like your trademark, like your company name, for example, people don't know anything about it. They don't realize that under the law, you can choose a really strong company name and receive the most automatic protection for your name, for example. And so they don't know what those rules are. They don't know how to go about choosing a name. They pretty much go about it haphazardly or kind of randomly, not knowing, right, the way to do it. Also, they think that they can put it off. Maybe that's not really important to look into the name. Maybe we need to build the product, and so we'll just ignore that and we'll look at it a year down the road. Well, what can happen to you are two things. First of all, you're spending your time and money building your brand, right? So you don't want in a year to find out that, first of all, you're being sued by somebody who's already been using that. So then you are required to change your company name, for example, and start all over. So you wasted time, money, all of that, right? And secondly, you want to be able to protect your investment. So when you get to that point and you've done such an excellent job building this amazing company, and now there are competitors out there, people that wish they were you, and they're trying to perhaps copy you, for example, you want to be able to prevent that, right? You want to be able to protect your work. So sometimes people don't realize the two sides of it. They're more interested in, I don't want people to steal what I'm doing. But there's two sides. You want to be able to protect your work. You don't want to get sued. And then, so that's one of the things. IP, I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding surrounding, or just understanding the value of it and being able to protect it from the beginning. And then also, a lot of times I think founders should spend a little more time understanding equity, why it's important to have, for example, like a C Corp if you're looking for outside funds, if that's going to be important to your company. And it's important to really understand how that works, because as a startup, when you don't have funds in the beginning, you're going to want to be able to, you still need to be able to build a team and all of that. So if you understand equity, then it's really going to help you be able to attract superstars to your team. So that, you're really at a disadvantage if you don't understand how that works. So, and I've seen a lot of founders who, they really don't understand how it works, and it's very limiting. It's holding them back from being able to build that team, which is so vital.
Yeah, another one that I think those are great. Personally, I've never actually done anything with trademarking, and so I find that really, really interesting. I'm aware of some of the conceptualizations about wanting to make it like unique, I guess, to be for searchability, and obviously so that you're not infringing on somebody else's maybe registered trademark. But that's really interesting. Another one that you mentioned in your kind of development roadmap was about employment and HR. Is there anything, can you talk a little bit about those legal considerations around, I guess, employment or hiring in HR, and maybe some of the things you think through there?
Sure. One thing that I would take note of is that the law has been changing in this area. So I'm not a lawyer that specializes in employment and HR, but we do have one on our team that is really great. But I do know that in the last year or so, there have been some significant changes where some people, I'll even hear them speaking at a seminar or something, they're talking about what the rules are with regard to independent contractors, for example.
Mm-hmm.
what makes somebody an independent contractor under the law. And that has changed. So I would just recommend that people kind of think of that as a red flag and look into that and make sure you're in alignment with the new updates in the law. And I think this is another one that's really important to early stage founders. You're going to want to be doing kind of trial periods to see if somebody is a good fit for you, for example, as a co-founder. I always just recommend, for one thing, that you really need to keep things in writing, and you need to keep really good records as well. So, and that's always a really good kind of tip as far as legally, just to keep everything in writing, whether it's through, like, you've had a conversation with somebody and you've talked about confidentiality. So you send an email and you say, oh, this is what we talked about. And so you have it in writing then, right?
Yeah.
But so when you're going through these trial periods, though, like if you're offering somebody, hey, we're going to work on this short project together. If you're having any problems with that person, they're not completing their work on time and so forth, then you really should keep records of that, so that later that they don't come back to you. And, you need to keep your ducks in a row in that way. So
Yeah.
that's.
So if founders don't maybe take away anything else from this entire conversation, that the most minimum thing you can do to help protect yourself legally, put it in writing, right? Keep everything in writing. Follow up on your phone calls.
That's free.
Yeah.
Just be smart.
Yeah.
And I think, it's a good point that you make there, because I do think it's something that, in the kind of chaos and disorganization of it all, that it just can be kind of thrown by the wayside, and as you're moving forward and trying to take care of business or whatever. But I mean, just that organizational skill and keeping tabs on everything in writing is really, really smart.
I love the other thing that you said too about independent contractors, because one thing that we've seen even before Uber's IPO is sort of the idolization of Uber in the startup community, where it's to the point that even at like a pitching event, somebody will say, I am the Uber for X. And so people are constantly thinking, it seems to me, especially with building tech companies, there are tech platforms about using people as independent contractors. So that's something that's not really been on my radar. And I think that people being aware of, the employment laws around independent contractors and how those might be changing with basically like political pushback for Uber and some of these large hirers of independent contractors. I think that's really, really important also for people to take note of. Yeah.
Basically, it was a change having to do with it used to be about control, and as long as you weren't kind of maintaining too much control over the person under the law, then you were good to go. But under the new laws, what you would need to look into more, what's changed is that that's not necessarily the case anymore. And now they even it has to do with somebody if they work in the same type of sector as you have to be really careful then. It's harder to make them an independent contractor. So that's created a lot of problems for certain people that they were used to using the independent contractor relationship for a long time. So they could be caught off guard and be doing something that is not lawful without even knowing it, because the law has changed. So it's something to be aware of.
Yeah. One other one, at least another legal topic, and you can steer it in any direction you want, that you mentioned, though, was about SEC regulations and fundraising. And I mean, I could be incorrect about this, but I'm under the impression that you've also done some fundraising here in Silicon Valley. Whether you speak to your personal experience fundraising, or do you have any advice for founders fundraising specifically in Silicon Valley, or legal considerations that should be top of mind for them in regards to that?
Well, so I am coming to you from a woman's perspective here, right? So something so Legalucy is currently in the midst of our pre-seed round. It's really going awesomely, thanks to the always strong and amazing resources of Founder Institute and their Funding Lab program. I can't speak more highly of it, really. It's been such a strong resource for us. We prepared for due diligence and just got all of our ducks in a row. And we open our rounds May 1st, and we've secured our lead investor by May 24th. So
wow,
really awesome. Yes,
congrats.
we're trying to defeat the odds here, because I mean, statistically speaking, women-led companies still only get like 2% of funds. So it's a battle. You have to be ready to go to war, right? But
Mhm.
so we're really excited about those results so far that we've had. Now we are just speaking with and meeting with good fit individual angels that are interested in marketplaces. That's our model. Also legal tech and consumer internet and education too. So that's where we're at right now. So one piece of advice that I actually heard from another founder that I have a lot of respect for the other day, that kind of impacted my process as I moved through, is she had said that she really stayed focused over the long run on particular investors that she would really like to work with. And she just kept on it, over time. She just kept messaging them and kept giving them updates, and just going for it with them. And I really like that. We've gone through a process of qualifying good fit investors, people that we would like to work with. And there's a kind of I guess both an art and science to it in a way, but you're going through, but I just really like that piece of advice. And since then I've been it caused me to go through and kind of pick out, okay, who would we really like to work with, right? And really start concentrated outreach to those folks. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like one thing that we hear as marketers is that you used to have like 3 touch points, right, with a potential customer or something like that before you can convert them. And now they say, maybe now it's 8 or 10 touch points. And I think the same thing might be true, with speaking to investors. It's like you really have to. They get so many requests and talk to so many people that persistence has got to be one of the key elements.
Yeah. I think so. Absolutely.
Cool. I think that's really great advice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Before we wrap up, I like to end on a fun fact, and this might be related to the same kind of grit that it takes in the fundraising process. But one fun fact that I learned about you from somebody else who you've spoken with, Rachel, here at the office, is that you've been on Fear Factor before. And so our fun wrap-up question is, did being on Fear Factor teach you anything that applies to the cutthroat world of entrepreneurship?
Fear Factor for me, that fit into my life. It's just kind of a natural fit for me. As you mentioned earlier, I was in the Army. Mm-hmm. And I have always, I think due to the fact that I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, and I think it's, there were truly a lot of gender roles there. And so I think I joined the Army to prove, that I'm a strong woman. Fear Factor, becoming a lawyer, which I always wanted to do. The Founder Institute, I tell people that was my 3rd boot camp. First it was the Army, then it was kind of studying for the bar, and then the Founder Institute. And I'm serious about that. So Fear Factor, I jumped out of a helicopter, and I had never done that before. But other than that, it's just kind of who I am, really. That's the kind of person I am. If I would say my chief asset, I think it's being brave. So there you go. There's the answer.
So there's probably a good amount of crossover between people who could be possible candidates for a reality show that pushes your fear, and founders who are willing to go through the hard times.
When I teach founders, like I do seminars and so forth, and I always talk to people. This goes for both founders and investors. You talked about myself being a women-led company here and everything, and I really feel like I feel called to this purpose. I feel strongly about it. It's kind of, I was, working with and empowering female founders. And then I was kind of granted this opportunity to up level and walk the walk rather than talk the talk. But I always talk to founders about the number one thing is really being brave. I really think it is. So you have to get up day after day and just keep pushing through. So, and that goes for both founders and investors, right? We need to put ourselves out there, keep being amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Harmony. I really appreciate you, speaking with us a little bit more about Legalucy, as well as about some of the problems that you're solving and problems that founders are facing every day when it comes to thinking through business challenges that many of them have never faced before. So really appreciate that. And
Thank you so much for having me, and thank all of you at the Founder Institute for the resources and the strong network and everything. I can't speak highly enough about it. So we're very grateful.
Awesome. Well, well, I'm sure we'll have you in soon to come back in and say hello in person very shortly. So
Awesome.
Thank you, Harmony.
Have a wonderful day.